Tonight, when the sun goes down, you will probably pick up your phone, maybe scroll for a while, maybe put something on in the background, maybe just stare at the ceiling until sleep takes you. You will not think about what you are doing, but for 300,000 years, the hours after dark were the most dangerous, most active, and most psychologically complex part of the human day. Not the part you slept through, the part that made you who you are. And there are entire chapters of that night that no one talks about. Here is what your ancestors were actually doing in the dark. The hunt that only happened at night. Most people assume ancient humans were daytime creatures, hunt during the day, sleep when it got dark. That is the intuitive version. It is also wrong. Persistence hunting, chasing an animal across open ground until it collapses from heat exhaustion, is one of the oldest and most effective hunting strategies our ancestors used. And in equatorial Africa, where most of human evolution happened, midday temperatures regularly hit 40 degrees Celsius. Running in that heat kills you. So they didn't. The Hadza, one of the last hunter-gatherer groups on Earth, still conduct what researchers call night stalking, tracking animals in the hours just after dusk, when the air cools, when prey animals drink, when the thermal advantage flips. Your ancestors moved into the dark on purpose, not despite the danger, because of the opportunity. They used fire not as a substitute for daylight, but as a weapon. A line of fire dragged through dry grass herds animals in a specific direction. Ancient humans were documented doing this in southern Africa as far back as 70,000 years ago. They didn't just sit beside the fire, they used it to reshape the landscape, and then they came back to camp carrying meat. The thing that happened to their minds. Here is something that has been almost completely erased from modern life. Between roughly 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., in the hours around what historians call the watch, the wakeful period between first and second sleep, something specific happened inside the human brain. Prolactin levels spiked. Prolactin is the hormone your body releases during deep meditation. After orgasm. In the moments just after a profound emotional experience, it is associated with a state of open, non-directed awareness. Calm without drowsiness, receptive without distraction. Your ancestors hit this state every single night, and they did not waste it. Archaeological evidence from dozens of sites across Europe, Africa, and Australia shows that the most sophisticated cognitive work of prehistoric humans happened at night. Cave paintings were not casual decoration. The caves at Lascaux, Font de Gaume, and Altamira required sustained planning, the preparation of pigments, the construction of scaffolding from wood and hide, and the ability to hold a mental image of an animal and reproduce it accurately on a curved stone surface in near total darkness, by firelight, in a prolactin state, deep in the earth. Researchers now believe many of these paintings were created during altered states of consciousness, not from substances, but from sleep deprivation, rhythmic drumming, and extended periods in near-sensory deprivation underground. The dark was not an obstacle, it was part of the process. Your ancestors used the night to make the things that still survive them by 30,000 years. The social technology nobody named. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner published research on the Jew/Hwansi Bushmen of the Kalahari, one of the groups whose lifestyle most closely mirrors that of your ancestors. During the day, 80% of their conversation was practical. Resources, logistics, planning. At night, that flipped completely. 81% of nighttime conversation was narrative. Stories, but not entertainment in the way you think of it. What Wiesner documented was something more precise. Nighttime stories were reputational technology. Around the fire after dark, the group decided who you were. They discussed people who had been generous and people who had been selfish. They talked about the hunter who shared his kill and the one who didn't. They rehearsed the behavior they expected from each other. They rewarded cooperation through story and punished defection the same way. This was not gossip. This was governance. Your ancestors had no courts, no contracts, no legal systems. What they had was the fire at night and the stories told around it that made cooperation the only viable strategy. The night was where your ancestors built the social infrastructure that made civilization possible, and it ran on shame, reputation, and darkness. What they were afraid of. Here is the part that has been almost completely forgotten. Your ancestors were not apex predators at night. They were prey. Leopards are almost entirely nocturnal. They can see in 1/6 the light a human needs. They hunt silently. They drag their kills into trees so other predators cannot reach them. For most of human prehistory, a leopard in the dark near your camp was not a threat you could defend against. You could not see it. You could not hear it. It was simply there, and then someone was gone. The anthropological record is full of this. Fossil beds in South Africa show Australopithecine skulls with puncture marks that match leopard teeth perfectly, found at the base of trees where leopards cache their kills. Your ancestors were carried into trees in the dark and eaten. This did not make them passive, it made them loud. Hunter-gatherer groups studied across Africa, South America, and Australia share one near-universal nighttime behavior: communal sound, singing, chanting, rhythmic clapping that continues for hours after dark. Researchers initially assumed this was celebration or ritual. More recent analysis suggests a different function entirely. Sound signals occupancy. It tells predators that a large, coordinated group is present. The Biyaka of Central Africa, the Hazda of Tanzania, the Aboriginal communities of Northern Australia, all of them fill the dark with organized, sustained sound. Not because they are happy, because it works. Your ancestors sang at night to stay alive, and your body still remembers this. The instinct that makes silence at 3 a.m. feel wrong, that faint unease in an unfamiliar dark room, is not irrational. It is a 300,000-year-old threat assessment running exactly as designed. The knowledge that only came out at night. There is one more thing. In every pre-industrial culture ever studied, the most protected knowledge, initiation rituals, medical traditions, cosmological maps, the names of the dead, was transmitted exclusively at night. Not during the day, never during the day. Night was when the boundary between the living and the dead was considered permeable, when spirits moved, when the information that could not be spoken in ordinary daylight consciousness could finally be passed from one person to the next. This sounds like superstition, but strip the metaphysics out, and something functional remains. The knowledge transmitted at night was the knowledge that required altered states to receive. The prolactin window, the firelight, the drumming, the darkness. These were not decorative. They were a delivery system for information that had to stick, that had to be encoded in a way that would survive a lifetime. Initiation ceremonies that lasted all night, that involved sleep deprivation and rhythmic sound and near darkness, were neurologically sophisticated. Sleep deprivation dramatically increases synaptic plasticity, the brain's ability to form new, durable connections. The knowledge transmitted in those conditions was not just remembered, it was carved in. Your ancestors knew exactly what they were doing. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you will flip a switch. You will flood your eyes with blue light and tell your brain it is still daytime. Your melatonin will be suppressed. Your prolactin window will never open. The quiet, reflective state your ancestors entered every single night, the state that built civilizations, painted caves, and carved knowledge into the minds of the young, will not come, and in its place you will scroll. For 300,000 years, the dark was not something to survive. It was something to use, a technology, a space, a second life running parallel to the daylight one. You traded it for a light switch, and most of you will never know what you gave up.